Hello internet friends, I'm Laurel and welcome back to my channel. Today is the second week in my Walt Disney World 50th anniversary meal prep series. This week I'm meal prepping WW versions of two Disney parks favorites. The cheese soup from Le Cellier in Epcot at the Canadian Pavilion, as well as the gray stuff that's served at the Be Our Guest restaurant. I'll also be cooking up some ground beef to go with my soup. I can't eat soup as a meal. I do need a little bit more there. And since Le Cellier is a steakhouse, I thought that beef would be the right pairing for this. If you missed last week's entry, I'll link it up here and also in the description below. Also, go ahead and leave a comment and let me know which country in Epcot's World Showcase is your favorite. My favorite is France, for the food alone. Now it has Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, which opened on Friday, October 1st. I am super excited to cook today. The soup is gonna take a little bit of time, but it is going to be amazing. So let's get to the kitchen. I'm making the protein donuts first, so I'll preheat the oven to 350. Like last week, I'm making a half batch of my base protein donut recipe, which consists of half a cup of Kodiak cakes, flapjack, and waffle mix, 1.5 scoops of flavored protein powder. I'm using PE Science Protein in the Cake Pop flavor, half a teaspoon of baking powder, and to make these dark chocolate, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of black Dutch cocoa powder, which I like to call Oreo powder. I have this linked below. I mix up the dry ingredients before adding the wet ingredients because we especially want the baking powder to mix evenly. Next, I add my wet ingredients, which is half a small container of Dannon Vanilla Light and Fit Greek yogurt and 3/4 of a cup of water. Mix it up until everything is just barely combined. I'm using my donut pan again today, and I only need 5, but the recipe makes 8, so I'm just gonna have 3 extras to snack on. Possibly while I cook? These bake for 15 minutes. Next, I need to get the gray stuff mousse made so that it can set up in the fridge. Gray stuff is actually a cookies and cream mousse, so that's what I'm going for today. I start with a box of fat-free, sugar-free instant vanilla pudding mix, and I add 1.5 cups of unsweetened cashew milk. You can use almond milk or cow's milk, but you may need to adjust that in your recipe builder. I grab my hand mixer and mix this for about 2 minutes. Next, I mix in 1 teaspoon of black Dutch cocoa powder. Then I gently fold in 1/4 of a container of light whipped topping, which is about 70-ish grams. Finally, I crush up 2 Oreo cookies and get those folded in too. I get this in the fridge because it needs at least an hour to set up before I start adding it to my jars. I also want to make sure the donuts get ample time to cool off so that I don't melt my mousse. For the soup, I start by chopping my veggies. I need 2 stalks of celery, diced, and half a red onion, diced. In a large saucepan, add half a cup of bacon to about a teaspoon of margarine. I took a shortcut by using already cooked real bacon bits, but you can use what you have. Saute the bacon until it's cooked. In my case, I just let it cook for a few minutes. Then add all of your veggies and cook everything for another 5 minutes or until the onions and celery are translucent. Next, I use half a cup of flour and let that cook for a couple minutes. We're making a roux. Now I add 1.5 cups of chicken stock. Grab a whisk and whisk this over medium-low heat to get it combined. It takes a bit of muscling, but it does come together. Let this simmer over low for 15 minutes. Everything will cook together and all of the flavors will meld and become more complex. Just make sure to whisk it up every couple minutes to make sure nothing burns to the bottom. While the roux is cooking, I get my beef cooked up. I have about 1.25 pounds of 96% extra lean ground beef. I leave it in fairly large pieces as it cooks. Once it's cooked, I add 3 cloves of minced garlic and cook it for another couple minutes so that the garlic isn't raw. I pack it up and get it into the fridge. Each day I plan to use about 3 ounces of cooked ground beef, which comes out to 2 points. Now that the roux is cooked, I add my milk. I'm using 2 cups of unsweetened cashew milk, but you can use whatever milk you have. Just make sure to adjust your recipe builder. Get that whisked up over low heat. This needs to simmer slowly for another 15 minutes, but don't let it come to a boil. I just checked on mine every couple minutes, gave it a good whisking, and adjusted my heat if it was bubbling too much. Once the timer goes off, turn off the heat. I add 8 ounces of Velveeta shreds, half a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, half a tablespoon of hot sauce, and a 1/4 teaspoon or so of ground black pepper. I whisk everything together until the cheese is melted. Now I blend everything until it's smooth. I'm using an immersion blender, but you could do this in batches in an actual blender. Honestly, the hardest part of this recipe is not covering your kitchen in soup while using the immersion blender. I was never able to get mine perfectly smooth, but it was smooth enough for me. The last part is optional, but add a 1/4 cup of beer. The recipe doesn't have you cooking the alcohol out, so be aware of that if you make it for yourself. My veggie for the week is broccoli, my favorite. I'm only making 5 lunches today because the Disney Parks recipe that I used was for 10 servings and I just wanted easy math. Also, this meal prep can't be frozen. It may actually break the soup. So I also didn't want to make more than I could eat in a week. I do my best to evenly divide my soup, but I'm terrible at it and you can definitely tell it's not even. I actually don't worry about it too much, especially if I'm eating all of it in the same WW week. It really does even itself out. Each bowl of soup comes out to 6 points. To assemble my gray stuff, I put 1 donut in the bottom of my mini mason jars and I package up the extras for later. I use an ice cream scoop to divide my gray stuff mousse evenly among all 5 mason jars. I do hope you try the gray stuff. It's delicious. If you don't believe me, you're free to ask my dishes. The donut comes out to 1 point, and the mousse is 3 points, which makes my gray stuff a 4-point snack. I'm very pleased with the menu this week. It tastes incredibly decadent while still fitting easily into my goals. That's all I have to share with you today. I'd love for you to take a moment and click that like button. It really helps my videos find other people and I really appreciate it. Stay tuned because next week we're taking a stroll down Main Street. We're gonna stop at Casey's Quarter and get ourselves a mac and cheese chili dog. We're also going to continue down Main Street and get some churro cake bites. And if you didn't see last week's entry in the meal prep series, you can go ahead and check it out here. I really appreciate you spending time with me and I can't wait to see you again next time. Bye!